For 5 years of my life, I lived under one roof with 12 entrepreneurs, all of us working day and night growing our own e-commerce brands. And honestly, those were some of the most fun years of my life because from that collaborative environment and us working together literally nonstop, analyzing our Shopify stores, our ad results, and just constantly sharing new ideas, we were able to learn so much. And even though we didn't quite recognize it at the time, we were going through a period of growth that none of us would have ever have been capable of on our own. So we brought together some of those same roommates here today to talk with you and share their own stories of what their journey was like. And this will be part of a series, and comment down below if you enjoy this kind of content so we know to make more of it. And in today's session, we're going to be specifically breaking down the mental and mindset shifts that we had along the way, going from 0 to 6 and then on to 7 figures and beyond.
So at this point in the course, you guys have just gone through all of the foundations, stage 0. And this is everything from mindset to really having to change the way that you think in order to get one of these stores and businesses up and running. So we'll get into some really fun mindset questions. So the first question that I'll ask is, what mindset shifts were most important for you when starting your e-commerce journey?
All of us on the couch, we lived together for 3 to 4 years, varying amounts. And we lived with a group of people that were all running e-commerce businesses. There's 12 people in total. And so we were in this world nonstop, like pretty much 24/7 for years on end, which was great in a lot of ways in terms of like our business growth and like education. But there was also a lot of downsides in a lot of ways. And specifically in terms of mindset, to me, it was like getting up to speed and realizing like there was no downtime ever. And it was just business literally 24/7. And also living in an environment where it's all like a bunch of guys, everyone's like type A personality and stuff. There was never, like, at least to me, it felt like it. There was never really like a spare moment to talk about like mindset or emotions, or if you ever even tried to bring that up, you'd probably get like laughed at, kind of. Yeah. But mindset is such an integral piece to running a successful business, and now we learned that as we maybe matured a little bit. But yeah, how's that journey been for you guys? Like from the house, like living together versus afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's evolved over time. I think the mindset in the beginning was very quick pivots for business specifically. I was always thinking like short term, really. I was like, if a business didn't succeed in 1 month, then I have to close that business down or close that idea down and then go to the next thing, which was like, we talk about throughout the course too, a little bit of that shiny object syndrome. And now that I've like matured and I realized that like maybe that's worked at the time, but now that like you're older, you're actually trying to grow like a legitimate business or a legitimate asset, you have to be way more long term with that. But in terms of like living together too, I definitely miss it. Like there was definitely like a lot of good times that we all had together. And now that I'm on my own, I definitely see that the downsides of that too, because it really is contagious. Like you've heard it so many times, like the people you surround yourself like around, like those are the people that like, you become. And having that with you guys, like I even like just see you guys like this weekend has been just like getting you motivated again. Because like you guys are all entrepreneurs. Like when you isolate yourself from that, you're definitely getting yourself away from it. So I definitely miss it and see the benefit of surrounding yourself like-minded people, and that's huge in mindset. Yeah, I think a huge piece of it is the community, like you talk about, and that's one thing that I do miss from living in the house is, you know, having that, being able to bounce ideas off of each other. I think that was huge for all of our development. But I honestly think the biggest mindset shift for me happened going from college to into the house. You know, I was always pretty good at school, like. You know, I got good grades. I studied neuroscience in college, and I was kind of always going down that path.
I totally forgot about it. Say, yo, John was going to be a doctor, neuroscience. It's me.
But I was kind of always going down that path of, you know, school and just, you know, higher education, and that really teaches you that there's one right answer to everything. And I think that was the biggest mindset shift for me coming into the house, was realizing that there's no playbook in e-commerce, and there's 1,000 different ways you can do something. And, you know, there's not one right answer to everything. And I think just seeing the guys in the house who were having success coming in, just trying a million different things, that was a big shift for me, just realizing that there isn't one right answer to everything, and that
it takes a lot of trial and error to be successful in this. And you just kind of have to reframe your mind, especially if you're coming from, college or from, 9-to-5 job where, there's a right answer and a playbook for everything. E-commerce is not like that at all.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest mindset shifts actually came from us living in a house together. I think it really pairs well with business too. If you're not taking care of yourself, your business is going to do terrible. One of the most important things is mind and body. So, going to the gym and meditating and sleeping right and eating right and doing all those little things really adds up when you're building a business. If you're not doing those things, your business is going to struggle. I mean, it happened to me in the house. Wasn't doing the best job taking care of myself. Sometimes it's hard when you're with a bunch of friends and you just want to do fun things with your friends, but you're also building businesses too. So post-house, I started going to the gym again. I started eating right, and it really helped my businesses as well. So very important. Yeah, and the other thing you and I were actually talking about, Corey, was when we lived in the house, there wasn't like when we gave feedback to each other. It was just, if ruthless is the right word, but it was just extremely upfront. And there also wasn't, the things were moving so fast because, to your point, Justin, like some of the 5 people you spend the most time with, like the people we were spending the most time with were ones that were just moving fast and like breaking things. And so if you got negative feedback from like the market or whoever, there almost wasn't time to like wobble in it and be like, I spend so much time on the store or like these products and like it's not working. Like, do I suck? Like, does this not work? It was just like, oh, that didn't work. Next thing. Like, that didn't work. Next thing. And it was like, there was zero, like, pondering of like, am I bad? Like, any of that, which I think when you're isolated, and I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly felt this afterwards. I feel like I have so much more time to like, and maybe people watching this could relate, but like, I feel like I have so much more time, alone time than otherwise, like, reflect on things. And because I'm out of that fast-paced environment, it's like much more of the mental side is so much more important. And I think in the house, something that at the time I didn't realize is like, we were just pushing all of each other to just move fast, break things, to just iterate and like find the winner as quickly as possible. It made us just completely objective to like, whatever the data tells us, that's what we do. And just that muscle was built over years and years, to the point that like we almost became numb to it. And now if I launch 100 designs and 99 do terrible, but 1 does well, I'm super set. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That was really really helpful. I also wanted to add, I think when you guys were all living in the house, there was like a little bit of healthy competition between all of you guys. So that, everybody had their own business. Everybody wants to be successful. But I mean, at least watching Chris, someone in the house would be sailing really hard because be like, I'm doing that next week, but I'm going to set this out so that I can do that. And I think that really helped like propel you guys and push you guys even further in business. So I think that's also another part of like the community aspect that's really helpful. Like, we celebrate everybody's wins. Like everybody was happy that you guys are all doing well in the house, but at the same time, it was like pushing forward. It was like, I'm going to get to that point and then I'm not going to give up until I get there.
Yeah, it was like a race a lot of times. Like you wake up and you find someone scaling their ads and they're at like a 10K revenue day, and you're looking at yours and you're like, you even break like 1,000, and you would get like Matt. Like, he'd be happy for that, but you would get Matt too. So it definitely fuels like the competitive nature of it all was really fun. Definitely fueled a lot of us, like the addicting, fueling the anger into like, okay, screw it. Like, this store isn't working on the next one. This idea is not working on the next one. It really pushed you to get that spot. So
yeah, and I think people in the community, like, they talk about like when they see other people's wins, they're like, yeah, I'm happy for them, but like it makes me also like look at myself and like I feel bad about it, and it's like that's the right reaction to have. It's like comparison is a thief of joy, which is a really famous quote, and I believe in that. When the conclusion drawn for that is a negative one. But I think all of us being in that environment, we saw like I would see John having like a really high sales day, then I look at mine and I'm like, 1, it raised the bar, which I was thankful for, but 2, it just like put a fire in me of like, if John is able to do it, and like I know that I've done it in the past before, like that shows that I could do it too. And then I use that as like fueling the fire opposed to like tearing myself down, because that's just a negative. That's a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
You just have to use it as motivation. And I think like the important thing to remember is like you're all in the same tools. It's just they're making slightly different decisions than you are. And you just have to, use that as motivation and say, I'm just not doing exactly the right things, but I can get there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that really resonates with the We Scale University core value, win or learn, right? So you're either winning or you're learning. So, I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, right? So, yeah, it's really cool and an important piece to think about as well.
Okay, well, let's get into question 2. How did you define your goals and structure your time to set yourself up for success?
When we lived in the house, I didn't structure anything. It was just moving fast and breaking things and figuring it out day by day. We had like Trello boards and stuff, but I don't know about you guys. It was like the Wild West. And there's an interesting study on this. It's in the book Culture Code, but they had they gave 2 classrooms of people. They had like MBA grads and then they had kindergartners. They gave both of them the same amount of time and same materials, and the objective was to see who could build the highest marshmallow tower. And they approached it completely differently. MBAs, when they started the timer, they sat there, they planned, and they came up with like roadmaps and like iteration points and stuff. Kindergartners, they just started doing stuff. And long story short, at the end, the kindergartners they beat the MBAs, and they had the best, like, highest tower. And the moral of the story was that a lot of times you learn so much quicker just by taking action and just by like getting out of your own head and just testing stuff. And not only do you achieve, at least in our experience, you achieve faster results that way, but we also learn so much more because every day we are showing up, trying something new. Like either you win or you learn, and then you move on to the next day. And I think I've tried to remember that, but as you grow, some planning is necessary. But in the beginning, I don't know. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the concept that comes to my mind is we used to say like the shotgun method, or in other words, like throw a crab at the wall, see what sticks. And that's literally like, I mean, the first like couple of years, still to this day, I still take that same strategy for a lot of it, and it kind of takes you away from being like attached to like if you create this idea, create this business, and you're like, this has to work this certain way. It kind of takes you away from that when you're doing a shotgun method, where you're just kind of like blasting ideas out. And really just like when I'm talking about blasting ideas, I mean just running Facebook ads, for example, and just letting the database show you what works instead of being like so like set on one way of doing things. Like that's when you get in trouble, where like and then if you don't see the results and you're just like stuck in this kind of like rabbit hole trying to force it, when in reality, if you just blast the shotgun out there, and this is done in like degrees, so you shouldn't just like blast shotguns all the time and have no structure. Like, I mean, I think I could even take my own advice there on that. But yeah, I mean, that's the way that we've been doing things for so long, especially in the beginning. And yeah, I mean, it forms that mentality of like, you could always pivot and always change your mind and like let the data show you what you should be focusing on.
Yeah, I think you have to strike a balance there, because I agree with you guys. Like a lot of our successes come from just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what works. And you can't have it, preconceived idea of how things are supposed to go, because a lot of times it won't turn out that way. And then you think that's a failure if it doesn't go exactly to plan, when in a lot of cases it's not. And you can, like I said, there are multiple ways to do a lot of these things. I will say, like, structure-wise, the biggest thing for me has just been like time blocking, like setting aside a certain time of day, whether it's 4 hours or whatever, and just using that to work on a single project. That's something that I had figured out over time. I think back, like when we were in a house, it was just like I would wake up and say, what am I working on today? And I think it is good to have some structure there. It's important to be testing different things and, trying different ideas, but I think it's also important to have times when you sit down and say, okay, I'm only working on this thing. And, I'm going to, whether that's one day a week that you're only doing email marketing or whatever, just blocking off time to do the specific things and having some structure, so you're not just all over the place, half finishing projects and moving on to the next day. Yeah, I think the students in the university are really lucky to have a type of roadmap, because we just had nothing. We were just running circles and running any direction we possibly could. We just tried to figure out anything. So kind of jealous that they have a roadmap and a structure to follow, while still being able to test their own things too, right? Like, you guys are supposed to go out and try new things and find different things that work. Like, there's just a little roadmap to follow that helps you guys get started and follow the right path.
So defining goals, that was something that in the beginning, I always set up a really lofty goal. I think in the beginning, with like in the house, was like 7-figure business or failed.
And now taking that mentality, bringing it down into like a lot more smaller obtainable goals, like more short term, has been really useful for me personally, because having that like 7-figure lofty goal is great, but you need like the stepping stones to get there. And that's something that I learned, like having more tangible short term instead of like 7-figure, maybe like, okay, I want to get it to like $10,000 in revenue the first month. And then like kind of breaking into milestones. That's been really beneficial for me to actually make progress instead of having that like huge high bar that you're so far away from that makes it like almost like feel like it's unreachable at times. But breaking those goals and structuring them in more like short-term milestones has been really beneficial.
Yeah, now making it like a binary thing. Like it's either you have success or you don't. Like you either achieve 7 figures in sales or you have 0. And I think a big part of that, and what you were saying about the shotgun approach, is like the fear of failure. I think creeps in a lot when it comes to goal setting. And back to what we were saying before about like just trying things, moving fast and breaking stuff. I realized as you guys were talking, like when I worked at Amazon and like internships and stuff, in a 9-to-5 type of role, it's really not, it depends on the environment obviously, but it's really not acceptable to have failure. Like you can't really mess up on your presentation for your manager or your boss, or like if you're running financial reports for your department, like you really can't have mistakes. And entrepreneurship is completely different in that you're expected to make mistakes. And in fact, like that's the best way to learn, and to like build up that scar tissue so that you learn for the future. And I think that that's something, at least for me coming into this, that I was not really expecting. And yeah, that's been another mindset shift.
I think a big mindset shift, at least for myself, was early on, I put so much focus on just like the monetary and like, I want to hit this amount in sales. And like, that's what Chris and I were like working towards. But recently I've tried to set more tangible goals based off of like the 10,000 foot view and like the big overall picture of the business, and just kind of working towards that. So like Chris and I made it a goal that, you know, we're going to do 7 designs every single day, because we read in the article and it was like the top 1% print on demand people upload 7 designs per day. So it was like, that's going to be my goal that I work towards, because if I'm doing that, it's kind of like a little step in the right direction, but over time, look, you find some of your designs that then end up selling. So not only putting the goal as like a monetary end, but little kind of tangible goals, like Justin was saying, along the way. It kind of like keep you propelling forward and know that you're moving in the right direction, because we're working towards that big 10,000 foot view. We're keeping it in like the right frame of mind.
Yeah, I think it's important to know too that probably everyone here has probably had more mistakes than wins, but the quality of wins is outweighed the mistakes. So it's important to keep always learning and keep testing, because you're going to make mistakes. It's part of the journey, but the quality of wins that you have will always outweigh all those mistakes.
Maybe that would be fun. What's your guys' biggest or like most painful mistake?
We were selling in the flower niche. We were doing t-shirts, and we started ranging out the different product types, and we started selling wine tumblers, completely like unrelated to t-shirts, but it actually started doing like somewhat well. And then when I say somewhat well, like we sold like I don't even know, like maybe like 50 to 100 of them. And I just pulled trigger investing like into like a 5-figure investment, like just off of like 50 sales. And then to this day, I still have those tumblers, and they're just sitting and collecting dust, and they make me so mad. You know how to do it. And I've been like, they traveled probably to different, like 5 different fulfillment centers at this point. And it was just like one of those, like I just jumped the gun and like made a huge investment on something that really wasn't tested out. So it's a little embarrassing, but you know, lesson learned. And I haven't made any kind of like trigger happy investments like that since that. So yeah.
I think my biggest mistake, and this has happened multiple times, is just abandoning things when I lose interest in them. And I've gotten better at this over the years, but I think, you know, back when we were scaling crazy stores, and, you know, I had multiple stores that I popped up and did $1 million in the first couple months. If a store didn't do that, even if it was doing well, I'd be like, I'm not interested in this. Or, you know, if it was a niche that I was slightly less interested in, but was still having good results, would just move on to the next thing. So I think that's one thing that I definitely regret, is not running some of these stores for longer, and not just sticking with things even when they got a little boring. Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes I've made is, you know, I had a store that was extremely profitable. I was making tens of thousands of dollars a month. But, yeah, when you're in the house and you're watching your friends make a lot more money than that every month, that, you know, you kind of get stuck in the mindset of, hey, I need to switch something here. And looking back on it, it's probably one of the dumbest mistakes I've made in e-commerce, is making a lot of money, and I just let it go to the wayside because my friends were making more money on their own businesses. So I thought, okay, I'll just start something new here. That's really dumb. Yeah, mine was honestly pretty similar to yours, Ani. It was like whenever things were always so exciting and moving fast, and like I saw everybody getting results, that if once the initial excitement kind of wore off and I settled into like the boring period of the business, like for a long time. So that sign of I took it being boring as a sign that something was wrong. And I started to equate like running a good business means it should always be exciting. And that just nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, like it being exciting is just a sign that I'm introducing new things constantly, which at a certain point, like that's good for when you're testing, but you have to shift away from that shiny object and just settle into like a lot of what a business needs is just more of what's worried. And me for one, I didn't do hardly any of that. It was just the way we grew the business was always just adding on new stuff. It was like new product types, new marketing channels, new fulfillment. Like for example, on Yobise, it was doing extremely well with just a pair. And then I thought to grow the business, what will be exciting? Oh, yoga mats, yoga equipment. And so then we completely shifted the entire model away from print on demand because that was boring. And we started shipping in from, overseas, working with suppliers, and like the 80% of my focus went from being on designs and the existing brand to supply chain management and a completely new skill set that I had no no compounding vehicle in that. It was completely new to me. The net result was like the business overall, it stayed flat for a while after that.
Okay. I like it. Let's move on to the next question. How did you decide on your business model, and what factors influenced your choice?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, at least I was like I think I was the latest person to join, and I was really like grandfathered into a business model. So it's just talking about how I come up with it. I simply didn't, right? Like I took what you guys were doing and I applied my own niche to it, right? If I find like if they're flowers or space or cities, we'll get into those details too. But I was given like a winning model, and honestly, like I was really thankful for that because I had the initial success right at the bat. But then I never really experienced what it meant to be an entrepreneur until later down the road, which I'm learning now. Like when things don't work, how you figure it out to make them work. I never got that at the beginning. So I didn't really strategize my business model. It was really just kind of what you guys were doing, and you guys were like nice enough to like hand deliver me essentially. But I mean, there was a lot of lessons learned with that. But yeah, now like strategizing is more long-term oriented. We talked about before, like instead of having that like it's got to work within this month or it's a failure, like that's not strategy people. It's like a 6 month, it's a year window until you actually like being turn profit. It's like how I look at it now. But what do you think, Ja?
Yeah, I feel similarly, I guess, especially with like Facebook ad stuff. Like I kind of came in the house, guys were already running those. I was kind of taught how to do that. But I do think there was a shift. Like when I first started out, I got partnering with another guy to do lit with, and we were running like 3PL product. So it was product we were getting shipped in from China to fulfillment centers. And I think I was one of the first people to try print on demand store. And that honestly just came out of the supply chain issues we ran into at, having to front a ton of money for inventory. It was just a mess running the 3PL stuff. So we were like, hey, what other options are there where we don't have to yield that inventory, where we don't have these massive wait times, this huge upfront investment? And print on demand seemed like one of the best options just because it was, instant fulfillment from the United States. There's no upfront costs. So we kind of took things that we had already been doing in the Facebook ads and email and those sorts of things, and then just applied them to that new print on demand model, which worked really well. That was nice. Yeah, I was going to say that print on demand made it really easy to get started in e-commerce because coming out of college, I had no money. So that was the first business I started because you don't need any upfront costs. It was funny at the time, like I said, the print on demand business was working, but I had shining object syndrome in the house and used that money I made from my first print on demand business to Slingshot, my second business where I started selling jewelry. So, yep.
And I think a question that I have directly for Eric, because Eric's the one who actually found Printify and really got, I think, everybody in the house pretty much started on like the print on demand
Yeah,
fulfillment model. Like how?
they do our entire group by the name of Herrick's first store. So you would know what begins there.
Yeah, it was a soldier appreciation story. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, everyone that asked at the time, pretty sure was selling products that were shipped in from overseas, and I had basically no money at the time, so I needed a different kind of product that I could sell. And it originally started with a drop shipping model. It's like, what could I drop ship that could do well that I don't have to put any money to up front? And I kind of just stumbled into t-shirts. I was doing a lot of research via Amazon, but mostly on Etsy, and saw that t-shirts were doing really well. And then that kind of just led into the next step of, okay, how can I get t-shirts without having to buy them in bulk? I think it just was Googling around until I stumbled upon Printify, and then I was like, all right, I found my supplier, and then the rest is history. So
I'm not curious. I personally love print on demand because of what you were saying. Like, when you have a 3PL business, you literally turn into a supply chain manager. And me personally, I absolutely hate supply chain. Like, it is the worst. It is so boring. You're looking at all these POs matching with your PIs. You're getting spreadsheets. Like, that's not why we got in this business, to create things. And it just like, it didn't really feel like you're an entrepreneur. It just felt like you were just kind of crunching numbers. So when you do, there's a trade-off with it. Like, when you do front on demand, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not what I like numbers. So you like numbers, yeah.
what you major in again? Actuarial science, and you had to switch to advertiser science, and then put saw in reverse face.
Big math guy. But regardless, you allow that, like, when you do print on demand, you don't have the supply chain aspect of things. It just allows you to focus on like building the actual brand and like launching the ads, and like that's the fun part of it. That's like the creative part of it. But you do pay for it because the margins aren't as good because you're not messing in the inventory. But yeah, I mean, I love print on demand. It's a big print on demand guy.
Yeah, I think it's for a lot of people that are starting now, it could be a little bit misleading when they hear, like, print on demand is such a popular topic, and a lot of times it gets talked about just because it's an easy business model to talk about. And even for like years, like my parents hearing what I was doing, they're like, okay, you sell like t-shirts and apparel. They're like, hey, is that a real business? It honestly wasn't until we sold the first business that they're like, oh, this is a real thing, understandably. But honestly, after trying drop shipping, 3PL, print on demand, like everything in between, every different fulfillment model, we just keep coming back to print on demand, because not only, obviously, it does not require any money up front, but it allows you to, as we've matured, we've realized that like the lifetime value and like building a real relationship with your customers, that's where the real money is. I think that was another big evolution we all went through. Was in the beginning, it was just all about front end sale, just direct response marketing, just optimizing that and like the front end purchase and like nothing but that. And then we realized over time that like that's just one sale. The real money is in getting somebody to buy 2, 3, 5, 10 times. And that comes with, building a brand, making unique products, giving people a high quality experience, just all of the boxes that, print on demand checks. Whereas with just drop shipping, you're basically limited to the same product catalog that, anybody else is, selling. You're not able to like really differentiate as well.
Yeah, and like an essential part to like increasing like your customer LTV too is introducing new products. And how easy is that with print on demand? It's the easiest thing compared to like investing in inventory and incurring that risk and not just the time to get in product launch. Like if you're able to consistently make new print on demand products, which we can, it just increases your email list. It increases just like the satisfaction of customers. Like there's a reason someone bought. Like if you introduce new products, they're gonna buy again. So having the ability to like have that quick turnover too is like so nice. Yeah, so nice.
Hey guys, my name is Justin Pfluger. I'm a coach here at the WeScale University, and I am the meta ads guy. So my most unbelievable e-commerce experience has to be in 1 week, I sold $1 million worth of honey dispensers. Literally honey dispensing onto waffles and pancakes is what we sold. And it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So what I'm most excited for people to take away from this version 2 course is viewing this more as a business than just a print on demand store. Like, you're going to become an entrepreneur from this. This isn't just like a side project. This is more of a lifestyle. And throughout this course, we really emphasize that from a 10,000 foot view, which I think is going to be so beneficial for everyone that's starting off or has been involved in entrepreneurship before. So a breakthrough moment that I've had with a student in the community has to be the time when this one student was working week in and week out to get their first sale, and they just weren't seeing any results. They've actually stuck with one niche and pivoted multiple times, and they were about 2 months into testing, and they finally got that first sale. And I was just so excited to see someone actually keeping their head focused and not giving up, even though they weren't seeing any sales for months on end. And they finally got that first sale, and now they have a store that's sustainably running revenue. So what am I most excited about the future of WeScale University is we're already doing things now where we're increasing the interpersonal connections between everyone in the community. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, yeah, you're learning content and learning how to be an entrepreneur and learning how to run these print on demand stores, but it's really about creating these relationships with people that are like-minded. And that's really the cool thing that I've seen that we're building towards with WeScale University. So one thing that I want students to take away from our session today, just like sitting around here and talking about our businesses, is to know that we're all just like you. Like, we're not different. We all started somewhere and built a business, and we all did take the same risks. So if you're feeling like scared and like afraid to take that leap, like, we've all been there, and we can show you like it's not easy, but if you do put your head down and do the hard work, you can get to where you want to be.
What is the funniest piece of advice you were given when starting out, and did you follow it?
I don't know if I have like a specifically funny piece of advice, but the biggest thing I've seen, and this happens to this day, is people sending me ideas for shirts, and they're always narrative. And my dad does this a lot, actually. But like, people who aren't in the space, I think, don't understand that just because you think something's funny or you like the product, that doesn't mean that a larger audience is going to. And that's one thing I've explained to my dad so many times, is like, there are people out there who will find that shirt funny, but how much are you going to have to pay to get it to those people? And that's, I can't think of any other specific like funny advice I've gotten, but that's one that I get often, is that just like people sending me product ideas that they think will work, and sometimes I get a good laugh out of it because they're pretty bad.
One piece that, I don't know if it was advice, but like just a general thought was, you should keep spending money as fast as you're making it, so that you stay motivated to make more money. Yes. Yeah. That was the classic one that Ariel says in every class. That was a good one. It's like, we're like, okay, it makes sense. Like, I don't want to, like, money piling up in the bank. Got to get that out of there. Don't want that bogging down. Let's slow down the bank account.
Let's talk about the cars. Yeah, like, if the first time anyone would make like their first 10 grand in profit, they would just buy a sports car. Yeah, like a BMW, it was like double or triple the price of what the profit you paid. But then like the whole idea was like, enforced to it in the house is like, if you spend that much money, that motivates you to make more money than that you spent on. And it's a crazy concept for sure. Crazy concept.
I was going to say, it reminds me at the time we were all living in Florida together, and I think you bought a Tesla, and then Chris was like, I want a Tesla, and I was like, well, I'm getting a Tesla. But they all, one more, yeah, well, it's on me.
It's saying, you're the one that still has no rent. Yeah, it's still having. Yeah, that's a sick car. Yeah, let's go be like it. So I want to touch on another thing that was kind of emphasized by the same mindset during that time, was like kind of being like it's a dog eat dog world, sort of, where you have to be like aggressive and you have to be almost like hostile to the business, where like to get ahead, like the only way to get ahead is kind of screw people over on those. And that couldn't be further from the truth, in my opinion. Like, I think one of the most important things in business, if not the most important thing, is relationships. And that's relationships with your customers, that's relationships with your supplier and your customer service team. Like, that's what makes business successful. So like, I was told that many times. And like, you look at YouTube videos too, like you gotta like the Andrew Tate stuff and the other stuff, like it's like this alpha mentality where like you have to come from this hostile kind of like conquering like mentality, and it's just like not the truth. Like, building friendships and building with healthy relationships really drives like a successful business as well.
Yeah, so more like networking rather than it being like super fit.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple too. It's like, if you're gonna be someone that like someone likes, like a person that people like people are gonna want to work with you, and people are gonna want to like, cut you deals and bring opportunities versus someone's like, no, I screwed me over. Like, I'm never gonna work with them again.
And that also flows over nicely into like the way that you treat your customers as well.
Exactly.
And like, I think for a while, our mindset, when we're just conversion driven, we were like, just whatever it takes to get people to buy. And one, it just doesn't feel good, like doing business like that. And two, like when you kind of move past that veil of thinking, which I think a lot of us had that mindset, I think that it opens up doors to like what business can actually be. And just aside from it being way more profitable, just feels so much better operating a business like that.
Yeah, I was going to say too, it's probably one of the downsides of the house because we were pretty reclusive in that sense where we kind of kept to ourselves. Like everything was free flowing in the group, but we didn't really expand upon our group, right? We kept everything to ourselves, and just think back, like, what if we just networked a little bit more? You know, I think we held one event where like 40 or 50 people came, but besides that, like we just shared everything internally and never really expanded beyond that. Yeah, that's something I do think about because as I've met more people and networked more, like anytime I tell any of those stories from the house, people are like blown away. And, you know, now it's looking back 5 years out or whatever, but I completely agree with you. Like that event was amazing. That's some amazing people. People were blown away by what we were doing. Like I do wonder if we had done more outreach and more networking then, like while it was happening, where we would be now. Yeah, let's do something great and never do it again. Stupid.
Can you describe a time when everything seemed to be going wrong, but it all just clicked in the end?
Yeah.
I feel like all of you guys could have us a good story for this.
The one that stands out the most to me is when COVID happened, was when I was really scaling. It was I was running 2 brands at this time, and then both were pretty early on. And the COVID, so this was like March, I guess, 2020. The COVID shutdown was happened, and the print provider I was using at that time was in a state that fully shut down. So through no fault of their own, they were not able to go in and fulfill any orders. So at one point, I've had like over 7,000 orders backed up. And I remember calling them every day, being like, "What can we do about this?" And they were like, "Look, it's a state mandate. There's really nothing we can do." And during this time, because my LLC was early on, I had credit cards that didn't have super high limits that I was maxing out every day. So I'm on the phone with credit card companies, trying to get my limits raised. And then I had PayPal, who was one of our payment providers at the time, hold $25,000 because we scaled up so quickly that they thought it was suspicious or whatever. So I had all these orders backed up, this money on hold that they were also know about with, I think they're trying to say they called it for 180 days or something. So with all this going on at once, and I remember being like, I'm done. I'm tips. But, you figure it out. Eventually we found a different print provider in a state that was able to go in, where we transferred all those orders over to them, and they started getting fulfilled. We figured out a way around the PayPal money that I eventually got back. But I do remember, like, at that time, and I was down in Florida looking for a house at this point. It was just so many things happening at once. And I remember thinking, like, how am I going to get out of this? But I think you just kind of have to approach it systematically and take one thing at a time and say, okay, this isn't the end of the world. Like, there is a way out of this. I'm just not doing the right things right now. And that's the biggest one that stands out to me because I was close to quitting at that point, but you just figure it out.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest moments for me was I had a shipment delay one time, but I had 35,000 outstanding orders I needed to be shipped immediately. Well, and I had a shipping delay, so my supplier and whatever got stopped in customs, so my product was on hold, and also there was a hurricane going on down in Florida, and that's where our fulfillment center was. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. These customers are going to charge back everything. Like, this is a giant mess. And I was losing sleep over it. And I was like, you know what? I just have to tell the customers what's going on. And I just wrote up a nice long announce at every single order that was outstanding. I was like, hey, we had an order delay. And also there's a hurricane coming. It might be 3 weeks till you get your product. And, if you're uncomfortable with that, like, you completely understand. We'll refund you. And I think being as open and honest as possible with your customers is definitely the best policy because people were super receptive to that and they understood and everything ended up being okay.
What we were talking about before, like in the beginning, we just focused on like how much money can we make up front, not really thinking about the customer. But like now, like I'm sure everyone that runs businesses here, but they have like almost 100% refund policy. Like if a customer even gets the product and they're not satisfied with it, we refund them. And it compounds over time if you're gonna have good brand reputation because of this. And that there's a chance that because you get a refund, those guys will feel bad and they'll offer you again. Like it's better to be like that and being honest and transparent with your customers versus the other way around where it's like you're trying to hold on to as much money as you can. Because that actually is going to lead to the opposite of what you want. If you're holding on to money, it's going to lead to people being upset, charging back, not coming back, bad brand reputation, all that.
Yeah, it's almost like a inverse way to think about customer service. Because I always had a negative connotation with customer service, like I'm just losing money here because people want refunds. But really, you should be turning it into an asset to make money for you. Right? If you had good systems in place in your customer service, it's going to turn profitable.
Yeah, it's just going to increase that LTV of your customers. And I think, too, it helps not only your brand to stand out, but also as a small business, it allows us to compete with some of the top dogs like Amazon or other fake brands where you're going to get like that automated message that's like, hey, thanks for your concern. Like, we'll get back to you in 72 hours. Like, okay, versus if you're actually reading the customer's email, listening, and then getting back to them. A lot of people, especially when it's having to do with like a refund or an issue with their order, they're coming into it with like a negative, like, oh, I'm going to have to fight this. Meanwhile, we're like, hey, like, that's not the experience that you should be having. Keep the shirt. We'll send a new one. And people are like, wow, like, I've never had customer service like that. Totally helps, like, your brand stand out and really compete against some of those bigger brands that are out there.
Yeah, I think what I'm picking up from what you guys were saying and what feels true to me as well is like authenticity and transparency is kind of the great equalizer. And I think a lot of people when they're starting off with their business, they're like think they're game planning like all the possible problems that come up down the road and like solving problems for like next month when they're still today, which one is just like another form of procrastination. But two, I'm now firmly of the mindset that as long as you approach business with like an authentic and like transparent mindset and you truly want what's best, you're trying to put out good into the world and like nothing else, then that solves a lot of problems for you. Because like to Corey, your example, like if when stuff hits the wall, like if you're transparent about like we're trying to get these products, we're doing our best and we're happy to make things right if that doesn't work for you, and like that completely solves the problem right there. And I think it took us a number of what's it called, like experiences where it's like, oh god, how are we getting out of this, before we finally realize like, hey, if we just be open and honest with people, like people understand.
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on too. It's like almost online sales now is becoming like an online brick and mortar store. Like think of it as someone coming directly to you to buy something. Obviously, it's online versus when you're in person buying something, but someone goes into a store and has that human connection and buys from them based on that experience. You should be building your site in a similar vein where people are still having that experience, but virtually.
Share a story about the first time you felt like a real entrepreneur.
Talking a little bit earlier, we were going over when you asked the question about like how do you approach like your business strategy, and like what are the factors you consider. And I was saying like, well, I've really like copy and pasted like a lot of the stuff that I was given from people that lived in the house at the time. And this goes into my favorite case study, which is Cities, which if you guys have watched the course, or is this the beginning of the course or the end of the course? This is the game. This is the beginning. So you'll see this case study, and it was my first time like really branching off and starting my own idea. I remember Elf working under you and Sada, and it was like we did flowers, we did like a Buzzy store with a bunch of like bee jewelry and all this stuff, and like it was your guys' ideas, right? Like with you guys picking in the niche, picking the products, and it was you guys that kind of spearheading the whole thing. And the City Teas idea was my first time like branching off, and like I had an idea and like I created a store around it, and like I implemented what I knew from learning from you guys. And it was like my first time of like from ideation, from completely having my own idea to creating a store around it, and then testing ads. And then, like I said, you'll see the case study and like kind of see that journey there. It wasn't easy, but then turning that into a 7-figure business at some point was just so gratifying. It was the first time that I did feel like an entrepreneur, because I wasn't just like working under John and just like following what you guys were doing. It was just like, wow, I took this idea that I thought was a good idea and actually proved it out and sold it to, over 7 figures, made a lot of money from it. And it was just really, really gratifying to see like, okay, I can't like not only can I follow and like be successful under you guys, I can actually branch out and do my own thing and see the vision and bring it to like an actual successful business.
Yeah, I feel similarly. Mine is I I mean, like you said, I've been working with another partner for a while, and we had done some crazy numbers, and we made a store that did $1 million in like a week. But I was profit share on that store, like, it didn't have real equity in it, and that was his idea originally. So even though if we were making good money and having some success, I didn't truly feel like it was my own. I think it was, you know, a similar experience you had. It wasn't until I started what became Cosmic Clothing, which was the first store that I really started myself. You know, I chose the niche. I created all the designs, like, you know, from step one. And it was, we had a design really take off. I think it did $174,000 the first day we launched this design. And that's the point that really stands out to me as like being like, okay, I'm a real entrepreneur now. Even though I had done, you know, consistent revenue prior to that, it was the first time that I had done it on a store that was really mine, you know, from the beginning. And that was a pretty crazy feeling. That's the point I remember being like, all right, there's no turning back. This is,
Dude, it's how it did. Cosmic kicked ass. How much revenue did that do?
it was doing about four to 4.5 a year. By the time I sold it,
I just remember those ads of his ad accounts that I would like go over your computer and see, and it was just cruising. So you were just nonstop, just like consistently like 2.5 ROAS or more, 3 sometimes, 4 sometimes.
Yeah, and that probably was crazy because I woke up, I had one ad account that was maxing out at $10,000 a day, and that we were doing about $30,000 or $40,000 of revenue, I think.
Yeah.
So maxing one ad account out at $10,000, and I had 2 other ad accounts that had like 1 or 2 campaigns in it. That was just testing stuff. And I woke up that day, saw the results. It was just absolutely ripping. And I had 5 ad accounts at the time, which had $10,000 limits each. So I duped out those ads into all the ad accounts and set it to spend $50,000, which I remember also being like, this could go really badly. Like, if something happens on Facebook, then, you know, like, you never know. It's yeah, that was a crazy feel.
I was happy that Promise build that sort of too.
In fact, I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
I feel like we all kind of started similarly where, you know, we came in and we just had small profit shares on other people's businesses and kind of got to learn the ropes and experience what it was like how to be like an entrepreneur, but not really because there wasn't any to risk. But for me, my first real experience of being an entrepreneur was actually, it was like 7 in the morning and I was sitting in the office in Melbourne, and Chris actually came into the room and he was like, "Hey Corey, like, what's going on? How's your day going?" And I kind of just had like this blank face, which to set the scene, I come down in the morning and like nobody's really up yet, and I walk into the dining room, which we've like converted it to an office, and it's pitch black, like nobody in there. All the desks are empty except for one, and there's Eric with, like he said, the blank stare on his face. And he's like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your ads going?" And I was like, "It's at 16." And he was like, "16 what?" I was like, "It's running in 16. You're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, it's running in 16 ROAS. Like, it's 7 a.m. We've spent like $1,000 and I've done $16,000 in revenue." And that was like no email or anything. It was just solely Facebook ads. And I just like could not believe like how much money was just basically coming in the door at that time.
This is jewelry?
Yeah, it was jewelry. Just so surreal.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it and I was like, "That's a stream." Like his ad account switched. Like, refresh the screen there. Like, we'll get to the bottom of this. And then he pulled up, he refreshed it again, and then showed the Shopify dashboard. And I was like, holy shit. That was the craziest ROAS I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, and say something on it was crazy. Yeah, that ROAS lasted for like almost a month. And it was basically just like a money printing machine or forever. So nice. And like, as we said. And, you know, I hope that happens for someone watching this or any of us. I would love to see that again. I haven't seen anything like that, but I would love to see something like that again. But in that moment, I was like, wow, I really found myself here. Like, this is way more than I ever imagined I would be doing. And it was basically like a little over a year in e-commerce. So, yeah.
So I know it's the last question, but I have one more question. So you guys all have these like crazy stories of crazy numbers. On to the states where, you know, the ad account was crushing. Why was the ad account crushing? Like, did it really come down to just one product, or was it just your whole store was doing well and like all of your ads were just, you know, running well? Was there something that stood out?
That's a really good question. For mine, at least, it was, I mean, like I said, we went from doing $30,000 to $40,000 a day to almost $108,000 to $175,000, and that was the difference between one design. It was the design that I put in the ads that night that just absolutely took off. So when we talk about, constantly testing designs and adding new iterations of things, like it literally can be, that insignificant of a difference where you put one design on the store and it, quadruples your revenue or whatever.
You'd even like that side. No, it was like a throwing background from Pinterest. Yeah, Obster. Yeah, Sai was like, maybe you should put this one on. Yeah, like, no, this is stupid. This isn't gonna work. You just did it just to like make him happy.
No, honestly, so for everyone listening, this design was in our Trello board. My business partner had actually put it in there. I really didn't like it. Didn't think it fit the niche very well. I thought it was just ugly in general. So, yes. And I was gonna delete this design from the Trello board, but for whatever reason, I honestly think I just forgot to do it. It got uploaded from our designers, and that ended up being our best-selling design ever. So it just goes to show like what you think is gonna work may not always be what works. And it's the best thing you can do is just test a ton of different things. Just because you don't like a design doesn't mean it's not gonna be your best seller. Just push up the wall and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, normally what it comes down to, you find one product that scales really well, that you hit the nail on the head, and I was just super fortunate for that sort. I was running at the time, I had like 12 home runs all at once. So I had like 12 different products scaling in all different directions, and that was kind of like the perfect storm. So like, realistically, if you can find one product, like John just mentioned, like, yeah, you're doing really well. I just got super lucky, honestly. There was nothing that I did that was different from anyone else. It was just the right time and the right products all at once. Yeah, and that's what we saw like across all of our brands, is that we were doing pretty much the same kind of Facebook ads, same kind of email marketing, same kind of website layout, like just simple, like bare bones. Like a lot of our sites, at least for mine, looked like a fifth grade computer science project, and the only difference was in the products that we were selling. And but back to your previous question, really quick, a different take. The time that I felt like an entrepreneur for the first time was honestly like right out of college, and it wasn't because I had any kind of success or anything. I was honestly pretty fortunate that I had a burn the boats moment pretty early on, where I just had this, I don't even know where it came from. I could think about it, but it really just came down to, I had this burning feeling that I would either become successful at this or I will live in a cardboard box. And there was like literally no in between in my mind. And from that point forward, I was far from successful, obviously, especially right out of college. It took years and like a lot of hard lessons. And there were different times that I felt like I made it, only to get smacked in the face with reality and just over and over again. But I was dead set early on. I was like, I will live in a cardboard box before I get a 9-5.
Did you guys always know you were going to be entrepreneurs?
No, not meant. No.
Yeah. What you mean doing that?
I think I knew when I was interning at a company or in college. Well, puberty's poppy. Run off. Yeah, I'm maturing right now. When I was at an internship in like a big company, I was walking around. They had this it's called walkabout program, where you like interview people at the company. And most interns, got to do like one in the week-ish, maybe 10 by the end of the summer. I loved it so much that by the end of the summer, I don't think over 75, where I would sit down and interview people at every different area of the company. It was a pretty well-known company. And by the end, I'd interview people from everything from IT to marketing to product sourcing to even some VPs who should not have taken time to cooperate with me, were nice enough to. And I just learned so much. And simultaneously, as I was walking around through all the cubicles and stuff, I saw these plaques on people's desks that were like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the company. And nothing against anybody. I have nothing but the utmost respect for anybody who like works hard and like does they have to like provide for their family. Like, absolutely not saying that. But to me, seeing that, it was like, I just pictured myself sitting there for the next 20 years and getting that plaque. And that, to me, scared the shit out of me. And I was like, I don't want to be able to like guess where I'm going to be 15, 20 years from now. I want it to be an adventure. Like, and for me, like, I guess like back to the human needs, like uncertainty is one that I value pretty highly, like surprise and like, every day feeling like an adventure, and entrepreneurship checks a lot of those boxes for me.
To touch on like, did I know I was going to be an entrepreneur? Absolutely not. But I was lucky to have like the way that I was introduced to the house and all of you guys was through my brother. And you know, your reality is your reality. Like, if your reality is what you understand about the world and what you can do. And I was lucky enough to have a brother who made us leap into entrepreneurship and showed me the ropes and showed me what's possible. So, like, I think being a part of this community too with WeScale, like, it gives that like confidence and that reality that you can do this. And without seeing people do it like firsthand, you're just like, oh, that's just like something like they got lucky or like they got like born into the money. And like you won't see like, no, like someone who can start from the very like bottom and make their way out to being like a successful entrepreneur. Like if you don't see that firsthand, you just don't think it's awesome. So like until I had my brother and seeing what my brother was doing, like I didn't think twice about being an entrepreneur. I thought I was going to do corporate finance, and like that's what I thought I was going to do. And like, I'm so happy and I'm so lucky to have a brother that like showed me that reality, because without that, I just wouldn't have even thought about it, to be honest. So I think this community acts as like what my brother was to me, or it could be like to someone else, can show them that reality. Like you can literally do it. Like there's some people that are doing it.
Yeah, that's really what we try to, like, that's what most excites me about the community, is trying to emulate all the good that we had from the house. Like the effect of like, you know, when we come down to the kitchen table in the morning and there'd be 6 other guys already sitting there talking about their ads from the previous day, what worked, what didn't. So like that element, learning together, and then at the same time, like being like accountability coaches to each other, bring all those elements that like help motivate us and like accelerate our learning, which at the time, I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I was completely ignorant of how fast we were learning, completely because of that situation that quite honestly, well, we kind of stalled it to in a lot of ways. Yeah, truly agree.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on and wrap up this first stage of the Print on Demand course. So guys, we appreciate you tuning in, listening. Hopefully you got some really good insights about all the coaches' mindsets and some of the challenges that they faced early on. And we'll see you in the next section, which is stage 1 research.